Wine versus beer versus spirits. Which is really healthiest? Wine drinkers say it's good for the heart. Beer drinkers say it's more natural and low strength. Spirit drinkers say it's clean, no sugar, just a couple of shots. So, which one is actually the healthiest option? If you had to pick one of them to drink for the rest of your life, and your only goal was to keep your mind sharp, your body healthy, and your risk of disease as low as possible, which one would you choose? Because that's what we're going to do in this video. We've gone deep into the research. Huge global studies, brain scans, cancer data, heart health, industry documents, and we've analyzed how wine, beer, and spirits really compare. The answer will genuinely surprise you because it goes completely against the cozy, mainstream story you've been sold about healthy drinking. And very quickly, if you want instant access to a brand new video training that I've just finished showing you how to control alcohol in as little as 48 hours, then click the link in the description. This new method is not about using willpower therapy or AA meetings. It's totally different. I do not publish this video anywhere else online, and it's already changing thousands of lives. So click the link below for instant access. Once you're on the next page, enter your name and email address, and your free training will begin. It takes just 7 minutes to watch, but it'll feel like somebody flicks a switch in your brain. And honestly, I'm not sure when I'll start charging for this 7-minute video training. That's how good it is. But whilst it's still available, click the link below, enter your name and email address, and watch that video now. Let's start with how most people think about it. If I put all three on a table right now, a glass of red wine, a pint of beer, and a double vodka, and I asked you which one is the least bad for me if I have it every day, most people would point at the wine because you've heard red wine is good for the heart. You've seen those articles about the Mediterranean diet. You've heard doctors say things like, a little wine with dinner is fine, or even beneficial. Beer drinkers have their own story. It's only beer. It's natural, it's weak, it's like liquid bread. You picture farmers, pubs, sports, nothing too sinister. And then the spirit drinkers. I don't drink that much, I just have a couple of vodkas. It's clean, no sugar, fewer calories, way better than beer. 3 tribes, 3 stories, all convinced they've hacked the system. So let's actually test those stories against reality. If you really did have to pick one of these for life, and you cared about your brain, your heart, your cancer risk, your weight, your long-term health, what would the science say? First, we need to be clear on what healthiest even means. Are we talking lowest cancer risk, best for your brain and memory, best for your heart and blood vessels, least likely to age you faster and wreck your sleep, hormones, and mood? Because here's what the big global analyses do. They zoom out and look at all of that at once. One of the largest of these, published in The Lancet, used data from 195 countries and looked at alcohol's impact on 23 different health outcomes: injuries, cancers, heart disease, infections, everything. When they ran the numbers and asked, at what level of drinking is overall health risk lowest? The answer was 0 drinks per week. Not 1 glass of red, not a couple of beers, effectively 0. Liver and public health specialists responding to that analysis put it very plainly. As the data has got better, the idea that any level of alcohol improves health has basically evaporated. So before we even get into wine versus beer versus spirits, we already know something uncomfortable. From a total health perspective, there is no magic healthy dose of alcohol. But that still leaves our original question. If you're going to drink, is there a least bad option? Let's walk through what each tribe tells itself and then what the evidence actually says. First up, wine. The wine story is simple and seductive. Red wine is classy. It's part of the Mediterranean lifestyle. It's full of antioxidants. A glass a day for your heart. This idea came from early observational studies where moderate drinkers, especially wine drinkers, seem to live longer than non-drinkers. But there's a huge problem those early studies mostly ignored. In a lot of them, the non-drinkers weren't healthy people who'd never drunk. They were a mix of lifetime abstainers and people who had quit because alcohol had already damaged their health. So you end up comparing Group A, people currently drinking moderately and feeling well, with Group B, lifetime abstainers plus ex-alcoholics and people who stopped because they were sick. Of course, Group A looks healthier. When researchers went back and fixed this, only comparing moderate drinkers to truly healthy, lifelong abstainers, that supposed survival advantage for moderate drinkers mostly vanished. A huge meta-analysis in JAMA did exactly that. More than 100 cohort studies, millions of people. Once they corrected for these biases, There was no strong evidence that low or moderate drinking reduced overall mortality compared with true lifetime abstainers. So the famous moderate wine drinkers live longer effect, largely a statistical illusion. And when you look at more advanced genetic natural experiment studies, where researchers use genetic variants linked to alcohol intake to test cause and effect, the picture gets even clearer. Alcohol doesn't deserve a health halo for your heart. These analyses show alcohol is linked to higher blood pressure and unfavorable cardiovascular marker. And they explicitly conclude alcohol should not be recommended to improve cardiovascular health. So that cozy belief of wine as heart medicine, that's marketing and mythology, not modern science. What about beer? Beer's story is different. No one is really saying beer is medicine. The story is more, it's low strength. It's just a few pints. It's natural. It's made from grains. It can't be that bad. But beer quietly wins in one category, volume. Because it feels harmless, people drink a lot of it. 4 pints in a night can still mean a massive dose of ethanol plus a truckload of calories. Beer becomes one of the major sources of invisible calories in many diets. And those calories don't come with fiber, micronutrients, or anything meaningful, just extra fat gain and metabolic stress. And remember, from your body's perspective, it's the total ethanol over time that drives cancer risk, brain changes, and overall harm, not how watery it tastes. And then spirits. The spirit drinker story is laser targeted to modern health culture. It's clean, no sugar, no carbs, just a few shots with soda or water, way better than beer. On paper, yes, if you're counting carbs and sugar, a vodka soda will look better than a pint. But your liver and your brain aren't counting carbs. They're dealing with ethanol. Spirits are higher in alcohol by volume, and people often pour generous home doubles and drink them quickly. That means big spikes in blood alcohol, and that's where we see more blackouts, injuries, impulsive decisions, and acute harm. So if we were scoring them only on sugar and carbs, spirits would look best. If we were scoring only on calories, beer probably looks worst. But none of that answers the real question about long-term health. For that, we have to zoom in on the actual molecule all 3 drinks have in common. Here's the twist most people never hear. From your body's perspective, there is no such thing as wine, beer, or spirits. There is only ethanol. Wine is ethanol dissolved in grape juice. Beer is ethanol dissolved in fermented grain. Spirits are concentrated ethanol diluted with water and mixers, different bottles, same molecule. And that molecule, ethanol, is classified by cancer agencies as a group 1 carcinogen. That's the highest category, same group as tobacco smoke and asbestos. The International Agency for Research on Cancer says alcoholic drinks are causally linked to at least 7 cancers: mouth, throat, larynx, esophagus, liver, colorectal, and female breast. And for several of these, risk goes up even at low levels of drinking. Meta-analyses looking at light drinkers, often up to about 1 drink per day, still find significantly increased risks of multiple cancers compared with lifetime non-drinkers. In other words, even 1 daily drink is not neutral. It's a cancer risk factor. And crucially, that pattern doesn't care whether the ethanol came wrapped in a wine glass, a pint glass, or a cocktail. Now let's look at the brain. If you care about performance, focus, creativity, memory, this part matters. A huge study using UK Biobank MRI scans, over 36,000 generally healthy adults, looked at how alcohol intake relates to brain structure. They found that higher alcohol intake was associated with less gray matter volume, poorer white matter integrity across many regions of the brain. And this wasn't just in obviously heavy drinkers. The changes showed up even at low to moderate levels, stuff like 1 or 2 drinks a day. Modeling suggested that going from around 1 drink per day to around 2 was associated with brain changes, similar to aging your brain by about 2 years. Again, the brain doesn't say, oh nice, this is red wine from Italy, I'll shrink less. It just sees ethanol and its toxic breakdown products. When you look at dementia and cognitive decline, more recent analyses, including genetic approaches, show that the old idea of a little alcohol protects your brain doesn't hold up either. If anything, alcohol adds risk. So from a brain perspective, the safest level of alcohol is 0, especially if your brain is your main asset in work and life. And again, wine, beer, spirits, the scan can't tell them apart. It just measures the footprint of ethanol. At this point, you might be thinking, Okay, but you still haven't answered the original question. If I had to drink, which would be least bad, wine, beer, or spirits? Here's the honest answer. Once you strip away the stories and look purely at biology, the main driver of harm is how much ethanol you consume, how often you consume it, and how early and how long you keep that pattern going in your life. The type of drink mostly changes two things: how fast that ethanol hits you, how easy it is to justify more of it. Spirits tend to be worst for acute harm. Blackouts, accidents, doing stupid, dangerous things in a short window. Beer tends to be worst for calories and gradual weight metabolic damage because it's so easy to treat it as a harmless background habit. Wine tends to be worst for long-term self-deception because of the health halo and the just one glass with dinner culture that quietly turns into decades of daily drinking. So if we're being totally cold and clinical, the healthiest alcohol would be the one that you drink the least of, the least often, without a big health halo story that keeps you hooked. For some people, that might look like an occasional small spirit with long alcohol-free stretches in between. For others, it might be nothing at all. But here's the key point. From the perspective of cancer risk, brain shrinkage, and global health statistics, none of them are truly healthy. The World Health Organization now comes right out and says it. There is no safe level of alcohol consumption for our health, and the cancer risk starts from the first drink. When someone asks, if I had to pick one drink to protect my mind and body for life, what should I choose? The scientifically honest answer is, pick the one that makes it easiest for you to drink nothing most of the time. Because the real healthiest option isn't hiding in a particular bottle. It's hidden in a decision to stop negotiating with a carcinogenic industrial chemical as if it were a vitamin. Now, one last piece of this puzzle that almost no one talks about, why you never hear any of this in mainstream advertising. It's not an accident. Researchers who study the alcohol industry's tactics have shown that they pump out drink responsibly campaigns that focus on you being the problem, not the product. They lobby hard against effective measures like tax rises, advertising bans, and health warning. They spin and cherry pick research to keep the moderate drinking is fine story alive. When you compare big alcohol to big tobacco, you see the same playbook. A small number of global corporations, heavy lobbying, front groups, and corporate social responsibility messaging that looks caring, but mainly protects sales. And now, we're seeing something new. Virtue marketing, low sugar wines, organic beers, clean spirits, and hard seltzers that look like wellness products. Public health analyses show that these labels, low carb, organic, natural, clean, create a health halo, even though they don't change the core harmful ingredient, ethanol. Switching from regular wine to organic, low sugar wine does nothing to change what your liver and brain see. The same ethanol molecule, the same group 1 carcinogen. It's like putting a vegan sticker on a pack of cigarettes and calling them a health product. So let's land this: wine drinkers aren't stupid. Beer drinkers aren't reckless. Spirit drinkers aren't doomed. You've just been given 3 different stories by an industry that makes billions from keeping you in the game. The question, which alcohol is healthiest, sounds like a smart, responsible question. But now you know the truth. Biologically, there is no special pass for wine, beer, or spirits. Your body only sees ethanol and the damage it brings over time. So if you were forced to pick one drink for the rest of your life to keep your mind and body healthy, the real power move isn't to pick a bottle. It's to pick a belief. I'm not going to let a carcinogenic industrial chemical pretend it's a health food in my life. Once you stop buying the story, you stop needing the product. And when you stop needing the product, you finally get access to the thing every bottle quietly steals from you. Clear thinking, stable mood, deep sleep, and a brain and body that are actually on your side. That's the trade that's really on the table, not wine versus beer versus spirits, ethanol, or your long-term health. If this video has inspired you to put the bottle down, then click the video on your screen right now. We did a full scientific breakdown of the incredible positive changes your body and mind go through when you get sober, so you can see exactly what changes you can expect. Click here to see the science of what you gain back.